It's estimated there are 7 million buy now, pay later accounts in Australia. Last year, they're said to have transacted around $16 billion. So that's about 2% of all payments made by credit or debit cards. But now the buy now, pay later sector faces greater regulation with a fear that Australians are getting themselves into a debt spiral that they can't control. The government's considering measures for the industry by the end of this year. But in the meantime, corporate regulator ASIC has said buy now, pay later should be regulated just like normal credit. Joining me is one of Australia's leading consumer financial advocates, Karen Cox from the Financial Rights Legal Centre. Karen, always good to chat to you. Why is it important that buy now, pay later contracts be regulated like ordinary credit contracts?
Ross, it's a really good question, but I think the answer is simple. It is a form of credit. We're seeing people every day who are getting into trouble using these products. I've seen the statement of an elderly pensioner with 35 pages of transactions, just buy now, pay later, one after the other, maybe 3 or 4 standard transactions. It's really very dangerous for people. We know it's a fabulous product that some people love and use quite well, but if we can't get this product out there safely, then it's not worth the damage that it's doing to consumers.
Okay, so take me to the point at which the industry itself has clearly got to adjust fairly rapidly, because this is about not doing consumers harm. Now, they've been broadly unregulated. They have their own industry code, I recognise that. But the notion of understanding the circumstances of the person that you've explained to us, that is what a credit provider would have to do, whether it's a bank or a finance company, building society, whatever it might be. They have to do that.
Absolutely, and there's absolutely no reason why this credit product, and it is a credit product, should be treated any different to the store card that I get when I walk in to buy something from Harvey Norman, the credit card that I use for my expenditure, for everyday expenditure in a very similar way. Payday loans, they all have to comply with the law. There's absolutely no logical reason why we should be treating this product any differently.
And as you say, for some people, they love the product. It's easy. It gives them an easy access. The question is it such a good product if there have to be checks and balances before a person can use it? Because generally what they've actually banked upon is that somebody else has done the credit check, be it the card provider or the credit provider to that person that they've put on their buy now, pay later form.
Look, it varies enormously, this industry. So the practices of the players are very, very different. Some of them are doing no checks at all. Some of them are doing checks. It is absolutely essential that they do some baseline checks, that they have some idea of who the person is that they're dealing with.
And it's interesting because buy now, pay later has been almost an Australian phenomenon, Afterpay being one of those, Zip being another one. Klarna overseas, I note, has just announced a $1 billion loss. So it's not necessarily a one-way street to make money, even for the credit providers. So the question is going to be in the future, their viability will be about the losses, the credit losses that they ultimately have to assume.
Look, it's basic common sense. The only credit that is good for the economy is credit that people can pay back. If we are building growth in spending around unsustainable credit, all we're doing is kicking the can down the road. It will eventually come back to bite us, and in the meantime, we will have done a lot of damage to a lot of vulnerable people.
And yet the interesting thing is, over the years, you've done so much work in educating people about the dangers of credit card and easy credit through those credit cards. It's now kind of shifted onto this buy now, pay later credit, which a lot of people sort of tended to ignore. But when you start to look at the cumulative effect of all of those forms of credit, that's where people genuinely get themselves into strife.
Look, I've seen all sorts of things. I've spoken to a young woman who is a single mum who says she has never had money problems before, and now she's in serious trouble because of buy now, pay later, because she saw it as an option to spread expenses, to manage expenses better, and it turned out to be quite the contrary. It actually meant she lost control because it's so easy to put things on there, and then those payments are spread over time and eat into the income you've got available for the next lot of expenses in the next month. I've also seen people who've got a volatile cocktail of every form of credit out there, payday loans, consumer leases, buy now, pay later, credit cards, And for those people, this is a complete and utter disaster.
I've got to say, for me, when
responses for some of those products, but for buy now, pay later, the rights are somewhat minimal.
I was going to say, when I saw buy now, pay later on food items, that's when I really genuinely started to worry about this. I've got to say, Karen Cox, always good to chat to you about these issues, and many thanks for your time today.
Thanks, Ross.